Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down the Thursday Night Football Showdown slate on Draftkings for Week 4. We do have the Jaguars and the Bengals playing this Thursday night. As always guys, we're going to talk through the Showdown slate, talk about all the playable options, going to run through the player pool from top to bottom, and then towards the end of the video we will kind of touch on roster construction, how I'm looking to build my lineups, who I want to play at captain, what kind of values can we find so that we can fit in those expensive captains at the top. We'll talk through everything, but before we do get started with the breakdown, as always, guys, I would appreciate it if you would please drop a like down below. Also, subscribe to the channel if you are new here. A lot of you guys that watch my videos are not subscribed. It's about 50%, like just about half the viewers I get on my videos. Half of you are not subscribed, so please do hit that subscribe button. It is obviously free. It's not going to cost you anything. And that way, when you subscribe, you'll see my videos right in your subscription feed. Whenever you open up the YouTube app or log into YouTube, you'll see my videos right there. You won't have to, search me up or anything. They'll be right there for you to watch. But please do hit that subscribe button. And also, comment down below. Let me know some of your favorite plays for this Showdown slate. I'm always reading all the comments. I'm trying to reply to every single comment, in all my videos. I appreciate all of you that do interact with me in the comment section. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know some of your favorite plays for this Week 4 Showdown slate. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and start off taking a look at the player pool, go from top to bottom, and we're just going to really talk about all the playable options. So we got the quarterback, most expensive player overall is one of the quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, 11,600. Obviously, Burrow is in play. I don't need to tell you that. On these Showdown slates, I say it every single video. You guys are probably tired of me saying it by now, but normally you're going to want to have exposure to one of the two quarterbacks, and a lot of times you'll see both quarterbacks be in the winning lineups. It's very unlikely that neither quarterback be in the winning lineup just because quarterbacks have such a high floor. A bad game from a quarterback is still like 14, 15 DraftKings points. So, yeah, Joe Burrow at 11,600. Even though he's the most expensive player on this slate, I think he's still a very solid option. The only thing I do worry about with Burrow here is that it doesn't seem like the Bengals really are going to go out there and just throw the ball much. I mean, so far his pass attempts are not what I would want. He's only thrown the ball 27, 30, and 18 times. This is a game where you think they're probably not going to have to throw the ball a ton. They should be playing with a lead. They're 7.5-point home favorites right now. That's the one negative, I guess, but Burrow's been pretty efficient even with minimal pass attempts, like 261 yards and 2 touchdowns, 207 yards and 2 touchdowns, 172 yards but 3 touchdowns. He's still been scoring touchdowns. He's still been, pretty efficient. So Joe Burrow, if I have to choose one of the two quarterbacks, I do prefer Joe Burrow, but we will talk about Trevor Lawrence. I think he's, firmly in play as well. But then you do have Joe Mixon at 11K. Joe Mixon continuing to be just a workhorse running back, 33 touches week 1, 21 touches week 2, and then 19 touches last week against Pittsburgh. The efficiency sometimes might not be there. Like some games, he's not going to be very efficient. These last 2 games, he wasn't very efficient at all against Pittsburgh or against Chicago. But those were tougher matchups. This is a much better matchup at home against the Jaguars. This Jaguars team, you can definitely run on them. They've never been that good stopping the run so far this year in terms of rushing yards allowed to opposing running backs. I'm pretty sure they're like top 10 in terms of rushing yards allowed to running backs. 284 rushing yards allowed to opposing RBs this season, which is about top 10. So this is definitely a good matchup for Mixon. Like I said, he's a workhorse back. He's going to play a very large majority of the snaps so far this season, like through 3 weeks. 78%, 84%, 74% of the snaps. He's going to handle a large majority of the running back touches. He's going to most likely get all the goal line work. Even if something weird happens and the Bengals are playing from behind in this game, they'll involve Mixon in the passing game still. So, yeah, at 11K, Joe Mixon is a very safe option. I would rather go to Joe Burrow. I do feel better. Normally, I'm always going to prefer quarterbacks over running backs, just for floor. But, upside is obviously there for Joe Mixon for sure. But Trevor Lawrence at 10-4, also firmly in play for me. Trevor Lawrence, for fantasy, hasn't really been that great this season. He did have a really good game week 1 against Houston, but, a lot of that came in garbage time. They were playing from behind. Trevor Lawrence threw the ball 51 times that week. Last 2 weeks haven't been great. I thought he would have done a lot better last week against Arizona. That was a really good matchup for them. Wasn't very good in that game, only 11 DK points, but again, this Jaguars team, they're not that good. They're going to be playing from behind a lot of games. They're going to be trailing. They're going to be forced to throw a lot. I think that's probably going to be the case once again here. For this game, they're 7.5-point road underdogs. So game script's probably going to favor Trevor Lawrence. He's probably going to have to throw the ball 35 to 40 times. This Bengals defense is definitely improved. They've been a lot better this year than they have in previous seasons. but I still think Trevor Lawrence is a very solid option. I would rather play Joe Burrow, but most of my lineups are probably going to have both quarterbacks in them. I definitely like to build a lot of lineups with both quarterbacks because it's just really unlikely that, having both quarterbacks is going to kill you in the end with just how much, with the floor that quarterbacks give you. But then you got Jamar Chase at 10,200. Jamar Chase been really good this year, been efficient in terms of touchdowns. He scored a touchdown in every single game so far. Had a big game week 1 against Minnesota, 5 catches, 101 yards and a touchdown. 2 catches, 54 yards and a touchdown against the Bears. And then last week against Pittsburgh, he got into the end zone twice. Only did it on 5 targets, 4 catches, 65 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think there's some regression coming for Jamar Chase. He's been almost too efficient. He's scoring multiple touchdowns on 5 targets. Scoring a touchdown on 4 targets week 2. There's going to be weeks where he doesn't find the end zone and he probably disappoints, but he's been playing so well lately. He's obviously a super talented receiver. Without T. Higgins, who is once again out this week, the target share should be there for Jamar Chase, and especially him and Tyler Boyd. I think you're going to see probably 6 to 8 targets for both Chase and Boyd. At 10,200, Jamar Chase is very expensive, but I still think he is a very solid option for sure. I do want to talk about his fantasy point projection on PrizePicks. Right now, they have him projected for 14.5 fantasy points. I do have a lean on the over there. If you guys want to tell me on some of the picks I like on PrizePicks, you can definitely check out PrizePicks, link down below in the description. They are the sponsor of this video. You can kind of see what PrizePicks has to offer. It's very simple. You just pick the over or the under on all the projections they have available. They have fantasy point projections. They also have player props, so you can do passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards, receptions. They've got everything, and again, it's very simple. You just pick the over or the under. You can make it. You have to do at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks, and you can win up to 10x your money over on PrizePicks. So if you guys want to sign up, check them out. Link down below in the description, or just be sure to use promo code Noah when you do sign up for PrizePicks, so that way you will get your first deposit matched up to $100, and then you can kind of go over there and make some picks for yourself. But I do like the over on 14.5 fantasy points for Jamar Chase. He's gone over that in 2 of their 3 games. Nearly went over that. That one game he had 13 DK points. Could have went over that week as well. But again, without T. Higgins, we should see probably 6 to 8 targets for Jamar Chase. Obviously, he is a very talented receiver. He's got big play upside. I think he goes over 14.5 fantasy points. So I do like his over on PrizePicks. But then you got James Robinson at 9,400. James Robinson, should be a workhorse back. He got 21 touches last week against Arizona, 14 touches against Denver. Week 1 was a little bit of a just weird situation. I don't know why he wasn't as involved as we all thought he would be week 1, but he's definitely starting to get that workhorse type role. It's starting to come back, especially last week, getting 21 touches, and he's been playing a very large majority of the snaps as well. Now, week 1, he only played 64% of the snaps, but he did play 73% in week 2. Only played 59% last week, but was still heavily involved. Still got 21 touches. Got some good usage in the passing game as well. You're probably going to get close to 20 touches for James Robinson, and even if the Jaguars get behind, even if they're playing from behind and they're having to throw a lot, you're still going to see James Robinson heavily involved in the passing game. He'll still get a good amount of usage there, so he feels like a pretty safe option. The matchup again is not as good as it used to be. The Bengals used to be really bad against the run. They've been much better stopping the run so far this year, but I still think James Robinson is in play. I would rather get up to Joe Mixon. I'd rather get up to probably Jamar Chase as well. But Robinson obviously is someone you can look to. Really, if a guy's going to get 20 touches or close to that, he's going to be playable on a showdown slate. It doesn't matter, how bad the matchup is or whatever it may be. But then you got Marvin Jones at 8,600. Marvin Jones kind of been the clear-cut wide receiver 1 for the Jaguars so far this season. He's led the team in target share, 28 targets through 3 games. He's been kind of Trevor Lawrence's go-to guy. At 8,600, even though this is a kind of high price tag, I still think Marvin Jones is a really good option. He's probably the first receiver that I would look to pair with Trevor Lawrence. I think he's my favorite Jags receiver overall, just because he's been getting the most targets on the team. But all these guys are in play. I really like all these Jaguars receivers. Marvin Jones at 8,600. You got DJ Shark at 7,200. Laviska Shenault at 6,600. We're going to talk about those guys as well. All 3 of these Jags receivers, I think, are firmly in play, especially if we expect the Jaguars to be playing from behind and throwing a lot. But then you got Tyler Boyd at 7,400. Tyler Boyd is definitely underpriced on this showdown slate, especially with the news that T. Higgins is going to be out again. With T. Higgins out, that kind of bumps up the expected target share for Tyler Boyd. He was going to be a guy that I would assume would get 5-6 targets almost every single week. But now without T. Higgins, there's definitely opportunity for him to see 8, 9, 10 targets. Last week he got 6 targets, 4 catches, 36 yards and a touchdown, had 13 DK points. Good matchup here at home against Jacksonville, who doesn't have a very good defense. I definitely like Tyler Boyd at 7,400. I might actually prefer him over Jamar Chase when you factor in the discount that you get, especially because some of the value on this slate, there is some value we'll talk about, but a lot of it's kind of questionable value. There's nobody super cheap that you're going to feel great about. That's kind of the way it always is, though, on these slates. Like, there's never any good punt options that you expect to score a lot of points. But there are definitely guys for cheap that are playable that you could play to get in some of these top-tier options. But I think saving going down from Jamar Chase to Tyler Boyd might be the better way to go, in my opinion. I think both of those Cincinnati receivers are obviously in play, but I do like Tyler Boyd the most. I think it's 7,400. And then you got DJ Shark and Laviska Shenault. Now, I think I do prefer Tyler Boyd over these guys, over Shark and Shenault, but DJ Shark should probably get 5-6 targets minimum. Again, we expect Jacksonville to probably be playing from behind, throwing a lot. Shark is obviously going to be involved, 7,200, someone you could look to. And then Laviska Shenault at 6,600, another guy that I have interest in, going to probably play a large majority of the snaps. Even though he plays out of the slot, he's still going to probably play like 55, 60% of the snaps at minimum. 70% of the snaps week 1 for Laviska, 80% week 2, 65% last week. DJ Shark and Marvin Jones are going to be the two guys that kind of operate on the outside, but then they'll mix in Laviska Shenault in the slot. And we obviously know Laviska is a very talented receiver as well. They'll use him like in the running game, like they'll give him some end arounds and stuff. He's got plenty of upside too. At 6,600, man, really all these guys, I feel like I'm talking about every single player, and I hate to say, yeah, he's in play, but really, you can't go wrong with any of these receivers. Now, which one's going to have the big game? We don't really know, but all these Jacksonville receivers I have interest in, Marvin Jones, DJ Shark, Laviska, and all the Cincinnati receivers as well, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and then we're going to talk about some cheap guys too, like Auden Tate. You could look to them as well. But yeah, basically 6,600 and up, almost everyone we've talked about is in play for me. I don't really have anything negative to say about really any of these guys from 6,600 and up. But now once we start to get to some of this value, now it starts to get a little bit questionable. Like the Bengals defense at 5,600, even though Trevor Lawrence has been pretty turnover prone so far this year, I'm not going to pay 5,600 for a defense on a showdown slate. If the Bengals defense goes out there and puts up a big game, if they get a pick 6, I'll just take the loss and I'll move on to the next slate. Like, Monday night, the Cowboys Eagles game, both defenses scored touchdowns. I didn't play either defense. I'm fine just kind of avoiding the defense. That's usually always my strategy on a showdown slate. So really no interest in the Bengals defense. Dan Arnold, we got to wait and see if he's going to be active for this game. He just signed with the Jaguars. He got traded from the Panthers to Jacksonville just a couple days ago. So we don't exactly know on a short week if he's going to be active here. We don't really know if he's had time to get the playbook memorized and all this stuff. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this. But Dan Arnold will be playable. He's never been a tight end with much upside, but Jacksonville obviously is kind of desperate at the tight end position right now. James O'Shaughnessy went on IR, so they don't really have any other tight ends except like Jacob Hollister. If Dan Arnold is active and he's not going to be like any sort of pitch count or anything, he's playable at 4,400. There are some cheaper options, though, that I feel better about, but Dan Arnold would at least be playable, I think, if he is active for this game. There's no guarantee, though, that he will be active since it is a short week and he just got with the team. But then you got CJ Uzomah at 4K. Really hasn't done much at all this season. Probably not going to play Uzomah. He feels a little bit too expensive at 4K. He's touchdown or bust. He's the number one tight end for the Bengals, but they're not going to use their tight ends much in the passing game in general. He probably gets a couple targets. You got to hope that he catches a touchdown or something. At 4K, I'm fine just not playing CJ Uzomah. I'd rather play one of the two kickers. Kickers are always fine for value. If you want to go to one of the two kickers, I'm fine with that. Rarely, I don't really ever play both kickers, but you can play one of the two. They're usually safe to give you, 6 to 8 points. Sometimes they'll get you more than that. The Jaguars defense, I'm not going to play. Chris Manhertz is more of a blocking tight end, so I'm probably not going to play him at 2,400. Carlos Hyde, I think, is playable as a punt option for 1,800. Now, Carlos Hyde, obviously we can't expect him to get, massive usage. He's a backup running back, but he's $1,800, and, at this price point, if he's going to get 8 to 10 touches, he is definitely playable at $1,800. So far this year, through 3 games, he's played about 25 to 35% of the snaps, 34% week 1, 25% week 2, and then 34% last week. He'll just kind of be like the change of pace back whenever, James Robinson needs a breather or something. He got 11 touches week 1. He got 2 touches week 2, and then he got 8 touches last week against Arizona. Probably gets anywhere from like 5 to 10 touches at 1,800. If he breaks off a long run or maybe catches a couple balls, I mean, it's not like he really needs to put up a ton of points to be a good option at 1,800. If you get 8 DraftKings points from Carlos Hyde, you're probably going to be pretty happy at this really cheap salary. So I do think that Carlos Hyde makes some sense as a punt option at 1,800. Chris Evans, not really involved enough to be playable. He'll probably get maybe 1 or 2 targets. He's seen 3 targets overall this season, but I'm not going to Chris Evans. Jamal Agnew is basically just a punt returner. He has returned 2 touchdowns already this season, so both of these games, weeks 2 and 3, he had a return touchdown, so he scored 6 DK points. I guess you could play Jamal Agnew and hope that he returns a touchdown, but I wouldn't do that. Most likely he's going to put up a 0. Jacob Hollister, though, I think is in play, especially if Darren Arnold is not active. If Darren Arnold is not active, I do expect Jacob Hollister to be the #1 tight end for Jacksonville. He did run a good amount of routes last week. He did get 6 targets against Arizona. Didn't really do much, only had 2 catches for 15 yards, but he was decently involved getting 6 targets. He's only 1K, super, super cheap. Again, you're not going to need much from him to really pay off the salary, and we talked about all these guys at the top. Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Trevor Lawrence, Jamar Chase, like these guys at the top, we're going to want to try and get into our lineups. The way we get those guys into our lineups is, playing some of these punt options. So for 1K, I think Jacob Hollister probably gets a few targets, and especially if Dan Arnold is not active and he's the #1 tight end for Jacksonville heading into this game, I do like him a lot as a value punt option at 1K. And then the other cheap option I wanted to mention are 2 guys, I guess. So with T. Higgins out last week, you kind of saw them mix in Alden Tate and Mike Thomas as the wide receiver 3s. Alden Tate, though, did outsnap Mike Thomas by a pretty big majority or a pretty big margin. He played 27 snaps last week, which was 57%. Alden Tate did, whereas Mike Thomas only played 10 snaps, so he outsnapped Mike Thomas 27-10. I think Alden Tate's kind of the wide receiver 3 right now with T. Higgins out. He only got 1 catch, only got 1 target last week, but if he's going to play 55-60% of the snaps, he's probably going to see at least a few targets. He's going to be on the field enough to where at only $400, I mean, I do like Alden Tate a lot for value. He's a Florida State guy. I'm a big Florida State fan. I know a good amount about Alden Tate. He was really good when he was at Florida State. He's a big body receiver. He's definitely someone they could utilize in the red zone. They could throw like a jump ball to him. There's always a possibility, especially when he's playing 55-60% of the snaps like he did last week, there's always a possibility that he gets targeted enough to be a good option at $400. So there's definitely value down here. Now, I would say none of these guys I feel great about. Like, none of these guys I'm super confident in, but Carlos Hyde at 1,800, Jacob Hollister at 1K, especially if Darren Arnold is not active, and then Alden Tate at $400. These guys are playable, in my opinion, and these are some of the values that I'm kind of looking to, so that way we can fit in some of these top options. But yeah, that really does it for the player pool, guys. We really talked about like all the playable options, all the guys I have interest in. Real quickly, before we hit on roster construction, I do want to head back over to PrizePicks, talk about a few more picks I do like over there. So we already mentioned how we like, or how I like the Jamar Chase over 14.5 fantasy points. Another over I like is Tyler Boyd, 13 fantasy points. Again, without T. Higgins, I think a large majority of the targets from Joe Burrow, a large majority of his pass attempts are going to go to Jamar Chase. They're going to go to Tyler Boyd. 13 fantasy points for Tyler Boyd. I think he goes over that as well. I like his over as well on PrizePicks. And then I want to go over to receiving yards. There's another one I like over here. Receiving yards, only 41.5 receiving yards for Laviska Shenault. Pretty sure he's gone over that in 2 of their 3 games already. Let me double check that real quick. So yeah, 48 receiving yards last week for Laviska, and then 50 receiving yards week 1 against Houston. Again, in a game where we expect the Jaguars to likely be playing from behind, Trevor Lawrence probably going to drop back 40 times, possibly like 35-40 times. Laviska probably gets 5-6 targets. He's obviously someone that can break off a long run or a long play, I guess. He's a super quick receiver. He's a guy that has a lot of upside. 41.5 receiving yards is probably a little bit too low. His projection should probably be like 46, 47. So I do like over 41.5 receiving yards for Laviska Shenault. So these are 3 picks I do like for Thursday night's game. Over on fantasy points for Jamar Chase, over on fantasy points for Tyler Boyd, and then over on receiving yards for Laviska Shenault. If you guys want to tail me, use these 3 picks. You can sign up for PrizePicks. Make sure to use promo code NOAH when you do sign up, and you can easily win up to 5x your money with these 3 picks. If you go 3 for 3, if you play it like a parlay, you would win 5x your money. If you want to play it a little bit safer, you can do a flex play. So that way, even if you only get 2 picks right and not all 3, you could still win some money. And if you get 3 picks right, all 3 picks right, you would still win a good amount, 2.25x your money. But again, sign up for PrizePicks, guys. Use promo code Noah if you have not yet, and you will get your first deposit over there matched up to $100. But yeah, let's talk about roster construction real quick before we end the video. So for me, when I'm looking for captains, I tend to always try and focus on pass catchers and running backs. So running backs, receivers, tight ends. Rarely do you see quarterbacks be the winning captain unless it's like a, elite rushing quarterback like a Kyler Murray or a Patrick Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson, like those guys that have massive upside. I don't think I'd be playing, or if I was playing a lot of lineups, I guess you could mix in the quarterbacks at captain, but I'm definitely going to be focusing on the running backs and the receivers, like Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, James Robinson, Marvin Jones, Tyler Boyd, Laviska, DJ Shark. I think these are the guys I'm going to really be looking to at captain. I think Tyler Boyd might be my favorite of all the receivers when you factor in price point. So if we plug him in at captain 11,100, we're obviously going to want to pair him with Joe Burrow. You always want to pair the quarterback with the receiver if you are playing a receiver at captain. We can plug in like Alden Tate kind of as our punt value because I do like Alden Tate a good amount with T. Higgins officially out. Again, Alden Tate, only $400, very easy for him to pay off that cheap salary. When we plug him in, we still got a lot of salary to work with. We could probably get both quarterbacks in here. We could jam in Trevor Lawrence. We could probably pair him with like a Marvin Jones and still get, like a DJ Shark as well or Laviska. So that's a pretty solid lineup that you could do, and you still got $1,300 left on the table. So you could maybe upgrade somewhere. You could upgrade Marvin Jones to James Robinson if you wanted to do that. You could obviously take out Trevor Lawrence and play Joe Mixon if you want to do that as well. But this is kind of the lineup I'm looking to build on the Showdown slate. I think I'm going to be focusing on, really from Laviska up. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to all these guys at the top, and then just kind of mixing in Jacob Hollister, Carlos Hyde, Alden Tate, even maybe Mike Thomas, just kind of mixing and matching all these cheap values down here. Maybe get a little bit of exposure to the kickers as well, but there are some punt options that are playable down here, so you can fit in the guys at the top. Now, are these guys going to all go off? No, obviously. Some of these cheap options that we mentioned are probably going to bust, but they're all going to see enough opportunity, enough touches to where they're so cheap and so they're valuable enough at their super cheap price points. Again, Hyde, $1,800, probably going to get like 8 to 10 touches. That makes him playable. Jacob Hollister got 6 targets last week, could be looking at similar usage this week, especially if Dan Arnold is not active, and he's only $1,000. Alden Tate played 60% of the snaps last week with T. Higgins out. Probably going to play close to that again this week with Higgins out again. He's only $400. So these are the kind of guys I am looking to for value, so that way we can fit in these top options that we have mentioned. But that kind of does it for the Showdown slate, guys. I appreciate you watching the video. Hopefully you did enjoy. Hopefully this video helped you. If you did enjoy, click that like button before you get out of here. Click that subscribe button to get as well. Again, guys, a very large majority of you that watch my videos are not subscribed. It's about 50%. So if you're a part of that 50%, please do hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. And be sure to comment down below. Let me know some of your favorite plays for this Showdown slate, kind of how you're approaching it. Are you going to play some of these cheap values? Are you going to maybe go a little bit mid-range? Maybe not go to those punt options. I'm always reading the comments, guys. I always want to, get your feedback. So comment down below. Let me know some of your favorite plays for tonight's slate. But thanks again for watching. Check out PrizePicks before you get out of here. If you have not signed up for PrizePicks yet, you use promo code Noah. When you do sign up over there, you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. But good luck on this slate. Thanks for watching, guys. We will see you in the next one. Peace.